What's up, everybody? Andrew Cooper here of Fantasy Alarm to break down all of the happenings that happened yesterday in fantasy football. As we do every Monday, quick 20-minute or so show, we look at every game, talk about the snaps, the routes, the usage, who's trending up, who's trending down, who we can trust for fantasy, do our best to comb through it all. Then we'll put it all in the waiver wire articles that'll be out tomorrow morning. So let's get into it. Just want to give a quick shout out to sites like uh, Player Profiler, Pro Football Focus, uh, Stat Head from Pro Football Reference. Shout out to Fantasy Points, Fantasy Suite, just a ton of guys that we go through and we kind of check out what the numbers are, what the usage is. So of course, Fantasy Alarm, a lot of stats from there as well. So let's get into it now. First one here: Minnesota Vikings played the New York Jets in the morning in London. As expected, for the wide receivers for the Vikings, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison were the top dogs. The surprise here, as Nathan Yonke at PFF pointed out, was that Jalen Naylor finally got that full time role as the third wide receiver. Now, not super fantasy relevant right now, unless you're in really deep leagues. And when TJ Hawkinson comes back, the real battle is going to be between Hawkinson and Addison for that second spot, not so much for the third spot. But for the time being, if you're looking for somebody, if Jefferson or Addison goes down, it's probably the nail gun, Jalen Naylor. So keep that in mind. He still operated as the third fiddle, came out of the game when they used two tight end sets, but it's always good to know who the next man up is. Uh, Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt, they out of 37 total pass plays, Oliver ran 16 routes, Munt ran 20. Until Hawk gets back, there's nothing there. And then, as you guys probably know, Aaron Jones went down with a hip injury. Ty Chandler took over. Miles Gaskin only played 5 snaps, but he's the third guy there. So if this is serious, Ty Chandler, we got to be on it. On the Jet side, it was Garrett Wilson as the top guy. Alan Lazard also played virtually the entire game. In fact, he played the entire game, 72 of 72 snaps, 69 of 72 for Garrett Wilson. Mike Williams was the third fiddle with 51. The next highest snaps were 2 for Xavier Gibson. So those are your guys there. I mean, 21 targets for Garrett Wilson. Alan Lazard obviously is a dart throw, chasing touchdowns. Mike Williams only 3 targets, man. He's just not up to speed. And obviously, there's the rumors of the Devontae Adams trade. Tyler Conklin, 45 of 57 routes run, which isn't too bad. And he got 8 targets. Obviously, they dropped back to pass 57 times. So this is kind of like we talked about with guys like Cole Kmet and Kate Otten and a few of these guys. And now Kyle Pitts and Mark Andrews fall into that too. We'll talk about that coming up. But, it's like we're happy to see them catch some balls, but the team threw a million times. So it's not really a huge change there. And same with Tyler Conklin here. Like he got his target share. His target share has been around 9, 10, 11%, but it's 8 of 57 dropbacks. So hard to kind of run away with that, but a spot start if you need one. And then again, Brees Hall, man, he's played 53 snaps. Braylon Allen only played 19, but when Allen's in there, they give him the ball. Brees Hall has just not been the guy we expected him to be, but can't really necessarily bench him either because he's Brees Hall and there's not enough great guys out there. Next game here, Panthers at Bears. Chicago Bears, you saw them go heavy 3 wide receiver sets, right? DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze all ran 33 or more of 36 routes. Odunze and Moore ran 35 of 36. Keenan Allen ran 33, so they're committed to that. Cole Kmet's got much better usage than before, but still not ideal. Only 28 routes run of 36. And of course, he's the 4th target on the team behind those guys, so kind of tough to trust him there. DeAndre Swift is holding on to his job, and he's doing it pretty well the way he's been playing lately. I know he got stuffed to the goal line, gave up that touchdown to Roschon. It would have been an even bigger day, but 49 snaps for him compared to 23 for Roschon, and he was playing more on rundowns and pass downs. So Swift is still the guy for now. Carolina Panthers, Deontay Johnson, and it was Deontay Johnson, Jonathan Mingo, Xavier Legette, as we expected, but Xavier Legette hurt his shoulder pretty early in the game. So if he's going to miss time, now it's Mingo and Deontay Johnson until one of Legette or Adam Thielen gets back. And Thielen is on IR, almost had to have surgery on the hamstring, so he might not be back for a long time. After him, they mixed in Jalen Coker and David Moore. Obviously, the rookie, Jalen Coker, is more important and more fun upside wise if you want to stash somebody. David Moore, we've seen him for a long time. He's been around. But Mingo is the guy that could be on the radar for the short period because he's the one that stepped up and played the full snap share, right? So keep an eye on that. Tommy Tremble got banged up here, so Jatavian Sanders played most of the game, got 5 targets. If Tremble is out, Sanders probably still just like a DFS dart throw, but I mean, there are some deep leagues out there, so keep an eye on Jatavian Sanders. We like him in Dynasty. This is a guy that he's got great hands. He's not super fast, good short area route running. Kind of reminds me of Zach Ertz or Hunter Henry as an upside comp. The downside comps for guys like this end up being like, like Cameron Brate or guys that can kind of Anthony Ferkser that have good hands. They're not fast, so we'll have to see. He needs a lot of targets, but well, if Tommy Tremble's out, he could be the guy here. Andy Dalton ended up getting benched here. It is what it is. Chuba Hubbard played over Miles Sanders, but Miles Sanders did run 21 routes to Chuba's 21. So that's where they like him. Chuba got more carries, obviously 12 to only 2. So that's the deal there. Next game, Ravens, Bengals. This was a good one. Ravens snap counts with wide receivers. Zay Flowers, 64, led the team, 41 to 47 routes run. Next was Rashad Bateman with 35 and 47. A little hard to trust him, but you could do worse on a dart throw. Again, this team threw more this week than they usually do. With tight end, you basically had Likely playing 55 snaps, Andrews 43, Charlie Kohler only 21. Charlie Kohler did what he did on only 6 routes run. Andrews ran 23, Likely ran 34. If you could combine them all into one Megatron tight end, that would be what Mark Andrews used to be, but it's not like that anymore. They're rotating guys in and out. It's honestly, people want to give up on Mark Andrews, might have to. I'm holding in some deeper leagues. I'll hold just to see if maybe it is an injury thing and he's getting up to speed. But I think they're pretty content rotating everybody at this stage. When the Ravens are playing from behind and have more pass downs, we know that Justice Hill plays a bunch of those. So Justice Hill technically 41 snaps to 39 for Derrick Henry, but you're going to start Derrick Henry every week. Justice Hill, it's hard to guess where and when these snap counts are going to favor Hill or not. So it's hard to go in saying, oh, the Ravens are going to crush today, they're going to lose today. I mean, the Ravens lost to the Raiders and they destroyed the Cowboys and the Bills. So hard to play that guessing game. On the Bengals side, Jamar Chase, the man, T. Higgins, also the man, Andre Yosivas, only 2 targets, so he's on the back burner. 12 targets and 13 targets for T. Higgins per PFF. And then at tight end, we kind of mentioned this would happen, that Eric All, people are excited about the targets he was getting, but he only ran 11 routes last week because he's the inline tight end. Then they bring in Mike Gesicki to play slot. Sometimes they both play at the same time, but Gesicki gets more of those slot snaps. So Eric All played 35 snaps, ran 16 routes. Gesicki only played 29 snaps, but ran 24. So it's enough mix and match that we're just going to avoid them all. Zach Moss played 45 snaps to 22 for Chase Brown. Chase Brown, once again, looked explosive. The weird thing here is that we picture Chase Brown as like the change of pace pass down back, but that wasn't really the case here as Zach Moss ran 25 routes to 8 for Brown. So we'll have to monitor the usage here. They want to get Brown more touches, but it looks like they trust Zach Moss more in that pass game. Keep an eye on Moss. It was reported that he was dealing with an ankle issue towards the end of the game there. He did return, but we'll have to say a lot of these guys, they play through the pain, then we get swelling during the week, and then they end up out. So we'll keep an eye on that. Bills at Texans. Stephon Diggs led the team with 59 snaps. As you probably know, Nico Collins got hurt here. We'll have to see. It's a hamstring issue. They said it didn't look too bad, but again, you never know with these. If he's out, what they did is they used the other big body backup Xavier Hutchinson in that role. It'll probably just mean that he's going to play a decent number of snaps as a split end, and then Diggs and Tank Dell will maintain their role, but probably get more targets. Hutch maybe ends up being a dart throw, but it's still Diggs and Tank. You need another injury for Xavier Hutchinson to kind of really be on the radar, in my opinion. At tight end, Dalton Schultz ran 36 routes of 42, played played 67 or 68 snaps, which is something he wasn't really doing last year. And with Nico out, now he's a little more appealing. Before, when they had all 3 wide receivers, not appealing at all. Now maybe could be worth a spot starter or DFS, but again, pretty crowded over there. At running back, Dare Gumbawale played more than Cam Akers essentially across the board. 46 snaps to 22 for Akers, 15 carries to 9. And of course, Gumbawale is a good pass catcher, so he ran more routes, finished as a PPR RB13 this week. I had to start him with my back against the wall. Can't really take credit for that. That's one of those ones where it's like, last minute guys getting ruled out, had to shuffle some things around, picked him up off the wire, threw him directly into a lineup. So that's not one where I was like, yeah, you got to start a Gumbawale. In fact, last week I had him as a DFS play when he did nothing. So hard to take credit there, but I did have to use him in a lineup. And, sometimes you got to make moves like that at the last minute. Buffalo Bills here, no Khalil Shakir. So they didn't really lean on anybody. we were hoping that somebody would step up and just play like the full game. Of 61 snaps, the leader played 38. That was Keon Coleman. He tied Dalton Kincaid with 38. Curtis Samuel, 34. Mac Hollins, 33. MVS, 28. Even Tyrell Shavers played 16. So they just spread it all around. Dalton Kincaid played 38. Dawson Knox played 33. Out of 36 possible routes, Kincaid led with 28, which is nice. He got 6 targets. Great. But I mean, this team seems committed to rotating everyone, and they don't seem to be clicking much doing that. So I don't know. I'd love to see some guys emerge and just be like the every down players. It's better for fantasy football, and I love fantasy football, but they're doing what they're doing, you know? Josh Allen was Josh Allen. He rocks. James Conner led the team easily in carries with 20. Ty Johnson got 3. Ray Davis only played 2 snaps. So I'm not sure if he got banged up or what's going on with Ray Davis, or maybe they just felt like using Ty Johnson instead. But Ray Davis hardly played. He is at best a pure handcuff. Ty Johnson actually ran 15 routes to 14 for James Cook, so something to look at. But again, if that only really works in fantasy if that player is also getting reasonable carries. Like I look at Emmanuel Wilson, who we'll talk about, and he at least is getting some carries. Ty Johnson, it's fine if he's running half the routes and getting no carries. Just can't trust that, even in full PPR. Colts Jaguars here. The Jaguars. It was Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas, Christian Kirk, as expected. Like those are the guys. Kirk actually was the odd man out in terms of routes run. He was kind of again when they went 2 tight end sets, he was the guy that was missing those. So Gabe Davis ran 29. This is of 34. Gabe Davis ran 29, Brian Thomas 27, Kirk 23. So, and again, with Evan Ingram comes back, it hurts a little bit, but Kirk pulled off the big play. I mean, like he's a consistent guy. Just it hurts his ceiling that he's not playing all the snaps. That's all. When Evan Ingram's out, Brenton Strange gets good usage, right? Luke Farrell, Josiah DeGuara are the blocking tight ends. They each ran 5 routes. Strange ran 28. So the second most behind Gabe Davis. So whenever Ingram's out, Brenton Strange is a solid piece. And maybe he does deserve more snaps when Ingram gets back. We'll have to see. But Ingram would obviously get the pass catching role. Strange more of an inline role. The big thing from this game on the Jaguar side is Tank Bigsby, 13 carries. He played 23 snaps to 22 for ETN, so 13 carries to 6 for ETN. Where they still trusted ETN was pass downs. ETN 7 pass blocking snaps to 1 for Bigsby. 22 total math hard. 22 total pass snaps for ETN to only 9 for Bigsby. But hey, if Bigsby's running better, he's going to get more carries. That's how it goes. I don't care what the coach says. According to our guy, Coach Speak Index, he rocks, says that Doug Peterson can be trusted like 33% of the time, so not even half. So whatever he says is meaningless. Colts side, Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs. Those are the 3 guys. Pierce is still playing the outside role, playing more snaps than Downs, but I don't care. Downs ran 35 routes to 40 for Pierce, and when he's out there, he's getting the ball. 12 targets. Josh Downs is a dog. We said to Adam last week, he's still only 40% owned on Yahoo. So drop the bag if you can. Josh Downs, good. This tight end situation is a nightmare. I'll tweet it out, but of 70 snaps, no tight end played more than 30. So don't go chasing Mo Alley Cox. Don't go chasing waterfalls. These guys are all rotating. It's still not good. Joe Flacco, I mean, guy's a gunslinger. For fantasy, better passer right now than Anthony Richardson. I don't think that's up for debate. Anthony Richardson is a better athlete. And when you combine the RPO and everything, might be a better quarterback, right? And you know, obviously you want to develop your prospect, and the upside long term of developing Anthony Richardson into someone who is awesome is much more meaningful than playing Joe Flacco. But there's no question that right now Joe Flacco, as a deliverer of the football, is better and better for fantasy. Trey Sermon, 41 snaps to 29 for Tyler Goodson. Goodson did uh, split the pass snaps with Sermon, but Sermon actually played more pass snaps. So Sermon's still the guy as long as Jonathan Taylor's out. We'll see what happens next week. Dolphins at Patriots, gross. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are your top dogs. There's no third wide receiver, even with Odell back, because they use the fullback Alec Engold, 42 snaps for Engold, more than half the game. Devon Achane was playing a lot of slot, but he got banged up here. We'll have to see it was a concussion, so as soon as he clears, he'll be back, but he could miss a game or two, or who knows. Raheem Mostert took over, and then Jalen Wright was the next guy 44 snaps for Mostert, 25 for Jalen Wright. So Mostert gets the biggest bump with Achane out. Jonnu Smith uh, still only played 40 of 78 snaps, ran 21. Sorry, he played 32 of 78 snaps because Julian Hill and Durham Smythe played 40 and 27. And Jonnu ran 21 of 36 routes. So I know the 7 targets might have people jumping around, but 21 of 36, you can do that math. It's just barely over 50, 60%. So it's just not ideal. With the Patriots, Jalen Polk played all 100% of snaps, 60 of 60, 37 routes, got 6 targets, couldn't really reel one in, had a touchdown kind of that he caught, uh, didn't end up counting. So Jalen Polk is a stash, man. And Drake May, he's coming. They're saying he could even start. I don't know if they should throw him out against the Texans this week. I think that might be a bad idea, but still, got to stash him up. Demario Douglas, 8 targets here. Kendrick Bourne, I guess, is one to watch. He first game back, played sparingly, but again, these other guys, Keyshawn Butte, Tyquan Thornton, not really doing anything. Hunter Henry played 56 of 60 snaps, ran 32 of 37 routes. Again, they're kind of spreading the targets around a little bit, so he only got 4, but I'm stashing him to see what it looks like with Drake May still. There's only so much upside out there in this landscape. Browns at Commanders. With the Commanders, Terry McLaurin led. Luke McCaffrey was next. Again, Noah Brown kind of was carving out that role last week, and then he was out this week. So it was Luke McCaffrey and Diami Brown. They only 43 snaps for Luke McCaffrey, 36 for Diami Brown, 34 for Olamide Zacchaeus. That's out of 66. So hard to trust any of that. Zach Ertz, he's out there doing his thing, getting peppered with targets. Didn't really catch any of them. Got a couple end zone targets he didn't catch. Ben Sennett is a guy you have to have your eye on because if something happens to Ertz, I think that Ben Sennett leapfrogs John Bates into that pass catching role, and then he might be interesting on fresh legs. They're rolling with Ertz for now. We saw the same thing last year with the Cardinals. They rolled with Ertz. Once Ertz got hurt, Trey McBride got in there, and it was wheels up. Ben Sennett, honestly, it's cliche to say it, but like look at the narratives we've seen in the past. There's a reason that they happened, and there's a reason that they could happen again. I mean, look at Tucker Kraft being drafted behind Luke Musgrave, just like when Mark Andrews was drafted behind Hayden Hurst. Now we've got the same thing. Trey McBride behind Zach Ertz. Keep an eye on it. With Brian Robinson banged up, Austin Eckler played a decent amount. With the narrative, he played the pass downs, but Brian Robinson is still the guy. Scored the touchdowns. He looks good. Cleveland Browns, absolute dumpster fire. Amari Cooper led the team. Jerry Jeudy was next. No other wide receivers even close. Those guys are hard to trust. At tight end, Njoku was eased back in, so we'll have to hope he gets ramped up. But this week, eased in. Next week, maybe more, but he didn't even play half the snaps. So hard to say he goes from half to 100. Sean Watson quit on the team. I was hoping that, I thought maybe he could get back to his former glory. He looks brutal. So maybe time to bench and move on from him. Jerome Ford led in all phases. Donta Foreman mixed in. Nick Chubb will be back eventually, but Jerome Ford's the guy until then. Denver Broncos, Cortland Sutton continues to lead the team in snaps, routes, and targets. Everybody else mixes and matches. And little Jordan Humphrey was second with 39 of 61 snaps. Not really enough for us. At tight end, they benched Greg Dulcich, let Lucas Kroll play, but Kroll only he led the team in routes around the tight ends, but only 10 of 31 because they mixed, Adam Trotman and Nate Atkins. Kroll is like a deep, deep stash, who knows? Javonte Williams led in all phases. Jaleel McLaughlin was behind him in both pass and run down. So it's still Javonte over Jaleel, but Jaleel, kind of looks good. So again, a guy you can stash, not really start though. With no Devontae Adams, it was Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers on the outsides again. And then they used 2 tight end sets with Brock Bowers and Harrison Bryant in that inline role. Bryant only ran 9 routes to 36 for Bowers. Bowers is awesome. He's must start every week. Alexander Madison led with 40 snaps, 31 for Amir Abdullah. Madison got more pass downs. Amir Abdullah got more rundowns. Dylan Laube was active and did not play. So again, if you're stashing a guy like that, it's got to be dynasty or really deep leagues. Next game here, Cardinals, 49ers. Marvin Harrison Jr. led in all phases. Michael Wilson was out there for just as many routes and snaps as Marvin Harrison Jr. One less route run for Michael Wilson, one less target. So again, Michael Wilson, a spot start from time to time. Trey McBride, even dealing with rib injury, played virtually the whole game, got 8 targets, so he rocks. Greg Dortch was a slot guy as he often is, so kind of tough to trust. Elijah Higgins stole the touchdown, obviously, from Trey McBride. 2 touchdowns for Elijah Higgins. Neither came in the game that McBride missed, of course. Classic fantasy football. Kyler Murray, awesome. You got to start him every week. James Conner, awesome. Start him every week. San Francisco 49ers. Brandon Ayuk led the team in routes and targets. Debo was out there. 52 snaps to 59 for Ayuk. 33 routes run. Ayuk ran 38, but Debo's kind of gadgety. You got the 3 carries. You still start Debo. Just he's gonna have down weeks. Jawan Jennings is back on the back burner. We told you this would happen. We told you to sell high. He only plays in 3 wide receiver sets because they use Kyle Juszczyk for 40 or 64 snaps. So that's always going to be the case. George Kittle's been one of the most consistent players out here. You got to just roll him every week in this tight end landscape, especially, these guys get banged up and Kittle plays more or less, but it doesn't matter. You just got to put him in there because he's one of the few guys that can break off big chunk plays. Jordan Mason, 41 snaps, only 9 for Isaac Guerendo. He's the guy until CMC gets back if CMC gets back, we'll have to see. Green Bay Packers at Rams. Dontavian Wicks led in snaps and was second in routes run to Reed as expected. He got the targets, just couldn't reel him in. I mean, he's been having a tough time catching the ball, but I think Wicks will have good games. He'll have bad games. That's the up and down of this type of player. But as long as if Romeo Dubs is out again, he's more appealing. If Dubs is back, then it's once again crowded, But until Christian Watson comes back, Wicks is going to play probably a full-time role. It's going to be Wicks and Dubs on the outside. Nathan Yankee over at PFF pointed out that Jaden Reed still has yet to play a snap in 2 wide receiver sets this year. Pure slot guy, gadget type guy, but he gets the carries on top of the target. So Reed is a start every week too. Tucker Kraft looked great. Well, first half didn't look good. Second half, incredible. Scored the 66-yard touchdown. Only registered 5 targets or 6, depending where you're looking. I saw some differing info on that, whether it was 5 or 6, but it doesn't really matter. It's like of 24, it's 5 or 6 is about the same. It's like, he's definitely a good spot start for the time being, and we'll have to see. Maybe he just keeps commanding targets, but you got to remember, obviously, no Romeo Dubs, no Christian Watson. Luke Musgrave was active as an emergency type player, but didn't play. He's dealing with an ankle issue. Josh Jacobs led the show, 19 carries, 16 routes run. Emmanuel Wilson had been playing a decent amount, but took a pretty big spot on the back burner here. Only 15 snaps to 44 for Jacobs. So Jacobs is awesome. He's the guy. Los Angeles Rams with no Cooper Kupp, no Puka Nacua. It was Demarcus Robinson, Jordan Whittington, Tutu Atwell. They all played huge snap shares. Demarcus Robinson led in routes, but Whittington and Tutu got the targets. Again, we cautioned against this. I even said I sent a tweet that was like, people chasing Cole Kmet, people chasing Tucker Kraft, people chasing Cade Otton because of the teams throwing a ton. And at the bottom, I said next week it'll be Colby Parkinson. Well, here we go. The Rams drop back to pass 48 times. Colby Parkinson got 13 targets, but that's not sustainable. They're on bye this week. Cooper Kupp expected back after the bye. We were saying to use Parkinson this week and to not chase it moving forward. So, with Kupp back, maybe still on the DFS radar, but like once Kupp and Nacua are back, all these guys probably go back in the bottle. I'm hoping that Jordan Whittington can continue to play a lot, and they just have 3 Cooper Kupps out there, but they're all just part-time spot starts, and they're on a bye this week, so that doesn't really help us. Kyren Williams, 67 snaps, which means he's the top dog across the board, 22 carries, 33 routes. But this week, Ronnie Rivers out, Blake Corum in as the backup. So Blake Corum, maybe more of an appealing stash than he has been. Giants at Seahawks. Darius Slayton took over as the Malik Neighbors, and they just fired the ball at him like you do to your Malik Neighbors. So Darius Slayton and Malik Neighbors have been the top guys. Wanda Robinson played more this week. Jalen Hyatt was the part-time guy, but when it's Neighbors is back, it'll probably go back to Neighbors and Slayton on the outside with Wanda Robinson in the slot. It's going to probably still be Neighbors and Wandell. So don't go too crazy on Slayton. Theo Johnson, the problem for him has been pass blocking. So he plays a big snap share, but they asked him to pass block a decent amount. I'll have to check and see. The numbers were bad the first 2 games, much better than the last 2. But he still only ran 30 of 40 routes. But 75 is not terrible. And again, with everyone healthy, he's tough to start. But good news for Dynasty where you have him stashed. Big news out of this one, probably one of the top waiver ads. Tyrone Tracy looked good, played over Eric Gray, and 45 snaps to 26 for Gray, 18 carries, looked great on what he was doing. So Got to add guys like that. Got to give yourself a chance at upside. Seahawks, it was Metcalf, JSN, Lockett again. JSN played a little more than Lockett, but not by much. Metcalf obviously led the team, and again they spread the targets around. Noah Fant, coming off the toe issue and ankle issue or whatever, all those issues he's had, he played a decent amount, looked fine, but again, with 3 wide receivers, we don't really care much. Kenneth Walker rocks, 39 snaps to 21 for Charbonnet. Charbonnet still behind him in all phases and is still one of the better handcuff pluses because you can throw him in there because he gets a couple carries. And if something happens to Kenneth Walker, we saw him score 2 touchdowns. The night game, boy, this is a nightmare for us East Coast dads, as JJ Zachariason likes to say. We were, boy, up late to watch bad football, especially the first half. But Dallas Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb is the guy. Jalen Tolbert with no Brandon Cooks. We like the look of that. Brandon Cooks expected out for a while, so Jalen Tolbert has to be on the radar. Jake Ferguson doing what he does. He's not super fast, but 39 of 45 routes, 7 targets, especially with no Brandon Cooks. Like Ferguson is top tier, start him every week. Rico Dowdle got the bulk of the work. Zeke looked pretty bad. So Dowdle's still the guy if you want to start somebody. On the Steelers side, George Pickens, that's the guy. Until something happens, like his Van Jefferson, meh. Calvin Austin, meh. Roman Wilson hasn't even played, hasn't gotten up to speed. We don't even know if he's ever going to play, but he's still a stash. Pat Freiermuth, 24 of 31 routes. Not quite enough. 3 targets out of 25 possible, not quite enough. We're wondering if maybe Russell Wilson will be better for the pass game, but Justin Fields has been fine. So you can't really say that he deserves to be benched. Najee Harris led in all phases with Jalen Warren and Cordell Patterson out. Aaron Shamplin and these guys not worth an ad whatsoever. All right, that's it for us tonight. We have Saints, Chiefs. Sorry for the boring show, but this is the show where I just get all the info out, the info dump. If you want the waiver ads, we're back on Tuesday with the silly stuff with me and Howard Bender. If you want the start sits, that's Wednesday with me and Howard Bender, 1 p.m. Eastern time for both those shows. Thursday and Friday, I'll be on Sirius XM, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern time, as well as Sunday morning at 10. We'll have another guest on Friday at 1. And moving forward some of these weeks on Sirius XM with Jim Bowden ramping up with the MLB stuff, I'm probably going to be picking up more shows. A few of these weeks, probably just going to do all 5 shows, so that'll be fun. Football time, baby. Let Jim go have fun at the MLB playoffs, and we'll talk football here at Fantasy Alarm. Thank you guys for tuning in.